Tonight, our journey takes us to a specific moment in the deep past to witness an event that has haunted the human imagination for over 4.5 millennia. We are not going to a time of war or disaster. We are traveling to a moment of profound, almost unimaginable creation. We are going to the Giza Plateau in the 4th dynasty of ancient Egypt to witness the completion of the Great Pyramid of Khufu. Forget the modern images of a silent, sand-swept tourist attraction. We are going to a time when this place was the largest, busiest, and most ambitious construction site on the planet. A place of raw, elemental power, of organized human will on a scale that is difficult to comprehend. We will stand as one of the wonders of the ancient world is given its final, finishing touch. Before we begin our travel through time, I want to thank you for joining me in this quiet space. Your presence makes these journeys possible. If you find a sense of peace or wonder in these stories, a simple like or subscribe is a quiet, powerful way to show it. And as our community listens from all corners of the globe, I invite you to leave a comment with your city. It's a wonderful reminder of the threads that connect us across the vast distances of the modern world. Now let the day's concerns drift away. Settle into your comfort. Let your breath become slow and deep. We are about to witness the culmination of a generational effort to feel the awe of standing in the shadow of a God-King's stairway to the stars. You arrive not by a modern air-conditioned bus, but on foot, one of thousands of souls making a slow, dusty pilgrimage. The air is the first thing that strikes you. It is not the dry, sterile air of the desert you might imagine. It is thick, heavy, and alive with a complex symphony of smells. The dominant scent is the rich, dark, fertile mud of the Nile, whose annual flood has just receded, leaving the land steaming and green with new life. Woven into this is the sharp, mineral smell of worked stone, the acrid tang of copper tools being forged in 1,000 small fires, the scent of baking bread from the vast workers' village, and the sweat of 10,000 laboring men. You are walking on a causeway, a paved stone road that leads from the valley temple at the edge of the water-filled harbor up to the high desert plateau. This is not a journey you are making alone. You are part of a vast, slow-moving river of humanity. There are priests in clean white linen kilts, their heads shaved and gleaming. There are government officials, scribes with reed pens tucked behind their ears, their faces a mask of weary importance. And there are the workers, thousands of them. Their bodies are lean, tanned to a deep bronze by the relentless Egyptian sun, their muscles coiled and powerful from a lifetime of labor. They are not the whipped slaves of Hollywood fantasy. They are farmers, laborers, and skilled artisans, men who have come from all over Egypt to perform their corvée, their state labor service, on the king's great project. Their mood is not one of sullen oppression. It is one of excitement, of festival, of a deep national pride. They are here to see the culmination of their life's work. As you ascend the causeway, the sounds grow. It is a noise unlike any you have ever heard. It is not the chaotic din of a modern city. It is a rhythmic, organized sound on a colossal scale. It is the sound of human effort amplified 10,000 times. It is the rhythmic chanting of men as they haul great ropes. It is the sharp chink, chink, chink of thousands of stone masons' chisels shaping rock. It is the low, grinding groan of massive stone blocks being moved on wooden sledges over wetted earth. It is a symphony of construction, a testament to what organized human will can achieve. And then you see it. It rises above the edge of the plateau and your breath catches in your throat. You have seen pictures, you have seen films. You have seen it in your mind's eye. But nothing, absolutely nothing, can prepare you for the reality of it. The Great Pyramid, but not as you know it. It is not the rough, sand-colored, stepped monument of today. It is a perfect, gleaming, otherworldly object. It is sheathed entirely in a casing of highly polished, brilliant white Tura limestone. It is a perfect, seamless geometric form, a pure white triangle against the deep, cloudless blue of the Egyptian sky. The sun strikes its surface, and the effect is blinding. It does not just reflect the light, it seems to gather it, to amplify it, to blaze with an internal, divine fire. It is not a building. It is a captured piece of the sun, a crystallized shard of light planted on the earth. The ancient Egyptians called it Achet Khufu, the horizon of Khufu, and you understand now that this is not a poetic name. The pyramid literally creates a new horizon, a man-made mountain of light that seems to merge the earth with the sky. Its scale is impossible. It seems to break the laws of perspective. As you walk closer, it does not seem to get larger. Instead, the world around it seems to get smaller. The thousands of people, the vast workers' village, the smaller surrounding temples and tombs, all of it is dwarfed, rendered insignificant by this single, silent, geometric God. You feel a profound sense of awe that is so intense it borders on fear. This is not the work of men. It is the work of giants, of a civilization that commands the very forces of nature. Today is a special day. After more than 20 years of construction, the final piece is to be set in place. The pyramidion, the capstone, a smaller pyramid-shaped stone that will sit at the very apex of the great structure. You reach the plateau. The organized chaos is overwhelming. The ground is a sprawling, living city of work. There are barracks for the workers, bakeries producing thousands of loaves of bread a day, breweries, tool-making workshops, and the offices of the scribes and overseers who manage this immense logistical operation. The level of organization required is staggering. Every block, every worker, every loaf of bread has been accounted for, planned, and directed by a vast bureaucracy of unimaginable complexity. This is not just a feat of engineering, it is a feat of administration. You are guided towards the base of the great structure. Standing here in its shadow is a humbling, almost crushing experience. The sheer verticality of it is terrifying. The polished white surface is so smooth, so perfect, that it seems to rise into the sky without effort. You can see the faint, hair-thin lines between the casing stones, a testament to the mason's incredible skill. The fit is so precise you could not insert a knife blade between them. Your attention is drawn to the focus of the day's activity. A great ramp, made of earth, rubble, and mud brick, still clings to one side of the pyramid, a winding temporary road to the sky. And on that ramp, the final act of this great drama is unfolding. The pyramidion is being moved. It is not a small stone. It is a solid block of granite, several tons in weight. But it is not its size that takes your breath away. It is its covering. The pyramidion is sheathed in a layer of electrum, a natural alloy of gold and silver. It is a beacon of pure, shining gold. It rests on a massive wooden sledge which is being pulled by hundreds of men. They are not pulling with brute force alone. They are pulling with a rhythmic, unified power. An overseer stands before them, not with a whip, but with two wooden clappers. He beats out a rhythm, and the men chant in time with it, a deep, resonant, powerful sound. With each beat of the clappers and each unified chant, they heave on the thick papyrus ropes. The great sledge groans, slides a few inches up the wetted ramp, and stops. Then the rhythm begins again. Clap chant, heave. It is a slow, painstaking, and perfectly coordinated ascent. You watch mesmerized for what seems like hours. The golden capstone inches its way up the side of the great white mountain. The sun climbs higher in the sky. The heat is intense, but no one leaves. The entire plateau is a sea of upturned faces, all watching this final sacred journey. Priests are chanting hymns. The air is thick with the scent of burning incense from altars that have been set up at the pyramid's base. Finally, the pyramidion reaches the summit. The air grows still, the chanting stops. The hammering of the masons has ceased. A profound, expectant silence falls over the Giza plateau. 10,000 people hold their breath as one. At the very top, a team of master masons who look like tiny insects from where you stand makes the final preparations. They guide the great golden stone using massive wooden levers towards the final empty space at the apex. The movements are infinitely slow, infinitely precise. The fate of the entire project, the work of a generation, rests on this final, delicate maneuver. Then, with a low, grinding sound that seems to travel down the very stone of the pyramid and into the soles of your feet, the pyramidion settles into place. It is done. For a moment there is only silence. And then the sun, now high in the sky, strikes the golden capstone, and the pyramid is lit. A single, unbearably brilliant point of golden light ignites at the very top of the great white structure. From this point, a wave of light seems to wash down the four polished faces. The pyramid, which was already breathtaking, is now transformed. It is no longer a static monument. It is a living thing, a beacon, a conduit between the earth and the heavens. A great, unified roar goes up from the thousands of people on the plateau. It is a sound of pure, unadulterated joy, of relief, of profound communal triumph. Men are embracing each other, scribes are weeping. Priests have fallen to their knees in prayer. They have not just built a king's tomb, they have raised a god. They have brought order to the chaos of the landscape. They have created a permanent, eternal symbol of their civilization's power and its connection to the divine. You stand there, a stranger from a distant, cynical future, and you feel tears streaming down your own face. You are overwhelmed. The sheer, unironic belief the power of this shared purpose is something your own world has lost. You are witnessing a moment of absolute, perfect unity between a people, their king, and their gods. The pyramid is not just a pile of stones. It is the physical manifestation of their entire worldview, their faith, their society. And it is the most magnificent thing you have ever seen. The work is finished, but the ceremony, the true awakening of the monument, has only just begun. The roar of the crowd fades, not into silence, but into a different kind of sound. A low, deep, resonant hum of collective awe. The initial explosive joy of completion gives way to a more profound religious reverence. The pyramid is no longer a construction site. It has been transformed in an instant into a sacred object, a place of immense power. The great ramp, the artery of construction that has clung to the pyramid's side for 2 decades, now seems like a profane scar on a perfect, divine body. The work of dismantling it will begin tomorrow. But today, the focus shifts from the physical to the metaphysical. The body of the monument is complete. Now its soul must be awakened. A procession begins. It moves from the base of the pyramid, where the high priests have been conducting their rituals, towards the causeway. It is led by a phalanx of priests in leopard skin robes, their hands holding tall staffs topped with the golden symbols of the gods. They are followed by rows of priestesses, their white linen dresses immaculate, shaking sistrums, sacred rattles, whose soft, metallic, shimmering sound seems to cleanse the very air. The scent of frankincense and myrrh burning in golden censers becomes almost intoxicatingly thick. You realize this is not the end of the day's events, but the beginning. The crowd begins to part, creating a wide, formal pathway. The officials, the nobles, and the high-ranking members of the court are being led down from the plateau back towards the valley temple by the harbour. You, a privileged observer, are swept along with them. The journey down the causeway is different from the journey up. The mood is no longer one of festive anticipation, but of solemn, holy purpose. No one speaks above a whisper. All eyes are either cast to the ground in reverence or turned back to gaze at the magnificent light-drenched monument that now crowns the horizon. With every step you take away from it, its geometric perfection and sheer, silent power seem to grow. It is a constant, watchful presence, dominating the landscape and the mind. You arrive at the Valley Temple. This is a building you passed on your way up, but you now see it for what it is. Not just a gateway, but a sacred preparation chamber. It is a massive, severe structure of red granite and alabaster, its walls thick, its interior dark and cool after the glare of the desert sun. The procession files into the great hypo-style hall, a forest of massive, square granite pillars that hold up the roof. The only light comes from narrow slits cut high in the walls, creating dramatic shafts of illumination that cut through the incense-filled gloom. Here, a new and even more sacred ceremony is to take place. The pharaoh himself, the god king Khufu, is here. He has been in ritual seclusion, preparing for this moment. You catch a glimpse of him, seated on a gilded throne at the far end of the hall. He's not just a man, he is a divine icon. He wears the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt, the ceremonial false beard, and holds the crook and flail, the symbols of his divine authority. His face is a calm, impassive mask. He is the living Horus, the earthly vessel of the God King. What is about to happen is the culmination of the entire project, the opening of the mouth ceremony. This is a ritual performed not on the pyramid itself, but on the king's Ka statue, a life-sized statue of the pharaoh, carved from black diorite, which will be sealed within the pyramid's chambers. This statue is believed to be the vessel for the king's life force, his Ka, which will allow him to live and act in the afterlife. But for the statue to fulfill this function, it must be magically animated. It must be given the ability to see, to speak, to hear, and to eat in the next world. The high priest, wearing the funerary mask of the jackal god Anubis, begins the ritual. The Ka statue, draped in fine linen, is brought before the pharaoh. The air is thick with the chanting of lector priests who are reading incantations from papyrus scrolls. The spells are ancient, their words believed to have the power to shape reality itself. The high priest raises a series of sacred instruments. First, an adze, a special ceremonial tool. He touches it to the eyes of the statue, chanting the words that will give it sight. I open your eyes that you may see in the afterlife. He touches it to the mouth. I open your mouth that you may speak and eat. He touches it to the ears, the nose, the arms, the legs, each touch accompanied by a specific, powerful incantation. It is a long, deeply hypnotic ritual. The rhythmic chanting, the shimmering sound of the sistrums, the thick clouds of incense, the dramatic play of light and shadow in the great hall. It all combines to create a powerful, altered state of consciousness. You, the rational observer from the future, find yourself swept up in the profound, unshakable belief of these people. In this space, in this moment, the magic is real. You are not watching a symbolic performance. You are witnessing the literal animation of a divine being. The statue is no longer just a piece of carved stone. It is being imbued with life. When the ceremony is complete, the now animated Ka statue is carefully placed on a ceremonial bark, a boat-shaped shrine to be carried back up the causeway. A great feast begins, not a wild drunken orgy, but a highly organized, ritualized meal for the thousands of workers. Vast quantities of bread, beer, salted fish, and roasted beef are distributed. This is not just sustenance, it is payment. It is a gift from the now activated God King to the people who built his eternal home. It is a reaffirmation of the divine order, of Mayat, the sacred balance of the universe. The king provides for his people, and the people serve their king. As evening falls, a new procession begins. This one is more solemn, more exclusive. The animated Ka statue, now veiled, is carried on its bark by a team of high priests. They begin the final journey up the causeway in the torchlight towards the pyramid. This time, the destination is not the apex, but the entrance. The entrance to the Great Pyramid is a small, unassuming opening on the north face, some 55 feet above the ground. As the procession reaches the base, the statue is carefully lifted, carried up a series of ceremonial stairs, and brought to the dark, waiting doorway. A final series of incantations is performed. The priests anoint the entrance with sacred oils. They make offerings of food and wine, the first of a perpetual series of offerings that will be performed in the pyramid's mortuary temple for centuries to come. Then the statue is carried inside. It disappears into the darkness, beginning its long, silent journey into the heart of the great mountain. You watch from a respectful distance. You know the journey it is taking. You have seen the diagrams. It will be carried down the descending passage, then up the grand ascending gallery, a marvel of corbelled masonry, and finally placed in the chamber of granite and silence that lies at the very center of the pyramid, the so-called King's Chamber. Once the statue is in place, the true final act begins. A team of masons, the most trusted of all the craftsmen, enters the pyramid. Their task is to seal it. They will slide a series of massive granite plugs which have been waiting in the ascending gallery down into the passageway, blocking it forever. They will then exit through a crudely carved escape shaft which will itself be sealed from the outside. The pyramid's entrance will be covered with a perfectly fitted casing stone, making it invisible, indistinguishable from the rest of the smooth, white face. The monument will be sealed, complete silence, impenetrable. As the priests and masons perform their final sacred duties, a sense of finality settles over the plateau. The great, bustling city of work is falling silent. The project is over. For 20 years, this place has been the center of the nation's life, the focus of its resources, its labor, its faith. And now it is finished. You see workers gathering their few belongings, preparing to make the journey back to their villages along the Nile. They are farmers, and now they must return to their fields. They carry with them not just their wages of bread and cloth, but a profound sense of accomplishment. They will be old men, sitting in the shade of a palm tree, and they will tell their grandchildren, "I was there. I helped to build the horizon of Khufu. I saw the golden capstone set in place." You look up at the great, silent structure, now a ghostly white triangle under the light of the moon and the brilliant, star-dusted Egyptian night. The golden pyramidion at its peak seems to capture the starlight, glowing with a soft, cool, celestial fire. It is no longer a beacon of the sun. It is now a star on the earth, a fixed point in the cosmos, connecting the world of men with the eternal, unchanging world of the gods. You begin to understand the pyramid not just as a tomb, but as a machine, a resurrection machine. Its entire design, its precise alignment with the cardinal points, the specific shafts pointing from the king's chamber towards the circumpolar stars, it is all part of a complex, functional technology designed to launch the Pharaoh's soul into the heavens, to transform him from a mortal king into an immortal god who will sail across the sky with the sun god Ra in his solar bark for all eternity. And in ensuring their king's immortality, the people have ensured their own. His eternal life guarantees the eternal stability of Egypt, the eternal rising and falling of the Nile, the eternal balance of the universe. The pyramid is not an act of selfish grandiosity. It is an act of profound communal self-preservation. It is an anchor mooring the entire nation of Egypt to the bedrock of eternity. You are witnessing the end of an era of construction and the beginning of an era of worship. The pyramid is now a living entity with its own priesthood, its own estates, to provide for its offerings, its own sacred rhythm. It will be the center of a religious cult that will last for centuries. As you stand there in the cool desert night, the sounds of the dispersing crowds fading behind you, you are left alone with the sheer, silent, overwhelming presence of the finished monument. You came here to witness a feat of construction, but you have seen something far more profound. You have seen the physical manifestation of a civilization's soul. You have seen the power of a shared belief to move mountains. And you know that you will carry the image of this great, white, silent star on the earth with you for the rest of your life, a quiet, humbling reminder of what human hands and human faith can achieve. The morning after the ceremony is an entirely different world. The air of festival, of divine purpose, has evaporated, leaving behind a strange, hollow silence. The Giza Plateau, which for 2 decades was a teeming city of relentless, organized noise, is now eerily quiet. The The rhythmic chanting of the haulers, the sharp chip, chip, chip of 10,000 chisels, the grinding of the sledges, all gone. The only sounds are the whisper of the desert wind and the distant, mournful cry of a kite circling in the vast, empty blue sky. You wake in a temporary shelter, a simple reed hut that served as your lodging, and the silence is the first thing you notice. It feels unnatural, like a sudden deafness. The energy of the place, the immense kinetic human force that was focused here, has been switched off. The project is over. The great machine of labor has been dismantled. You walk out onto the plateau. The great crowds are gone. All that remains is a skeleton crew of artisans and laborers tasked with the final cleanup, and the newly established priesthood, who are already beginning their eternal, rhythmic cycle of ritual in the mortuary temple. The ground is littered with the detritus of construction, discarded ropes, broken pottery, chips of limestone and granite that crunch under your feet like gravel. It feels like a battlefield after the great battle has been won, the air thick with a sense of memory and accomplishment. You see small groups of men, their belongings wrapped in bundles, setting off on foot, beginning their long journeys home to villages in the south, in the Nile Delta, in the distant oases. Their mood is not sad. It is a quiet, weary satisfaction. They are farmers, and the season of planting awaits them. For years, their lives were divided into two seasons: the season of the flood, when they could not work their fields and came here to work for their king, and the season of planting and harvest. Now, for the first time in a generation, that rhythm is broken. The great project is finished. You approach one of these men, an older man with a face like a sun-baked riverbed, his hands gnarled and powerful. He is a master stone mason from Aswan, the source of the red granite. He has spent the better part of his adult life here, supervising the quarrying and shaping of the massive blocks that form the inner chambers of the pyramid. Through a translator, a friendly scribe who is documenting the final inventory of tools, you ask the mason how he feels. He does not speak of glory or of the gods. He speaks with the quiet, practical pride of a master craftsman. He looks up at the great, silent white pyramid, and he does not see a divine object. He sees his own work. "Do you see the third course of stones just above the entrance?" he says, pointing with a calloused finger. "The ones that align with the great star passage? My team set those. We spent a full moon cycle grinding the edges to a perfect fit. The overseer said it was the finest work on the entire north face." He's not boasting, he is stating a fact. His legacy is not his name, which will be forgotten. His legacy is a single, perfect, invisible seam in a mountain of stone. He tells you of the life of the workers. It was not slavery, he is adamant about that. It was a duty and honor. They were well fed, better fed than in their own villages. The records being compiled by the scribes show it. Daily rations of bread, beer, onions, garlic, and dried fish. On special occasions there was meat. They had doctors to set their broken bones. They had their own community, their own city, but it was hard, dangerous work. He tells you of the dust that filled the lungs, the constant risk of being crushed by a slipping stone, the sheer, back-breaking exhaustion at the end of every day. He tells you of his friend who fell from the great ramp and was buried here in the workers' cemetery on the edge of the plateau. He will visit his friend's grave one last time before he leaves. His friend did not die a slave, he says. He died a builder, and his car will live forever in the shadow of the great work they did together. You leave the old mason to his memories and wander through the now emptying workers' village, the place known as Gerget Khufu, the settlement of Khufu. It is a ghost town in the making. You see the great communal bakeries, the stone ovens now cold. You see the long gallery-like barracks where the men slept in their rotating crews. You see the remains of their lives, a broken game board for senet scratched into a stone, a child's simple wooden toy, a string of clay beads. These were not mindless drones, they were people. They lived here, they worked here, they gambled, they loved, they grieved. and they built one of the most astonishing structures in human history. Your journey takes you to a different part of the site, a place of intense, almost fanatical activity that has not ceased. The workshops of the artisans who are furnishing the mortuary temple. Here, the work is not of colossal stone, but of intricate, human-scaled beauty. You see carpenters using simple copper saws and adzes, crafting exquisite furniture of cedar and ebony, inlaid with ivory and gold. You see jewelers hunched over small charcoal fires, creating breathtaking necklaces of carnelian and lapis lazuli. You see sculptors bringing lifelike portraits of the king and his family out of alabaster and schist. This is the other side of the pyramid project. It is not just a tomb, it is a fully equipped eternal palace for the pharaoh's soul. Everything he would need or desire in the afterlife must be provided in duplicate, one for the physical world of the temple and one for the spiritual world within the sealed tomb. There are chests of fine linen, jars of sacred oils and perfumes, gilded thrones, ceremonial weapons, and even perfectly crafted miniature boats to allow the king's soul to sail on the celestial waters. You watch a painter who is decorating the walls of the mortuary temple. He is not painting a grand historical scene. He is painting a simple, beautiful image of a papyrus marsh. Birds fly through the reeds. Fish swim in the clear water. A small boat drifts peacefully. It is an image of paradise, a perfect, unchanging vision of the Egyptian afterlife. The artist works with a quiet, focused grace, his reed brush moving with a confidence born of years of training. His work is not meant to be a realistic depiction. It is meant to be a magical one. The act of painting the marsh is a way of creating it in the afterlife, ensuring the king will have a place of peace and abundance for all eternity. You realize that every single object here, every piece of furniture, every jewel, every painting is not just a beautiful thing. It is a tool, a piece of magical technology designed to ensure the successful transition and eternal sustenance of the pharaoh's spirit. The entire Giza plateau is a vast, complex, and incredibly expensive machine for generating immortality. As the day wears on, you are drawn back to the Great Pyramid itself. The dismantling of the ramp has begun. Workers are slowly, carefully breaking down the massive structure of brick and rubble that was their pathway to the sky. It is a melancholy task, the deconstruction of the tool that made the great work possible. You find a spot at the base of the monument, on the western side, where the setting sun will soon cast the pyramid's great triangular shadow across the desert. This is the side of the dead, the direction of the afterlife. The priests are already here, beginning their evening chants. As the sun sinks towards the horizon, the magic of the pyramid reveals itself in a new way. The shadow begins to move. It is a perfect, sharp-edged triangle, a slice of pure darkness that creeps across the sand. It is a colossal sundial, marking the passage of time on a scale that is both earthly and celestial. You think of the incredible knowledge these people possessed. The knowledge of astronomy required to align the pyramid so perfectly with the cardinal points. The knowledge of mathematics and geometry needed to maintain its perfect angles from the base to the summit. The knowledge of logistics and human management required to organize a workforce of thousands for 2 decades. Your modern world sees them as a primitive, superstitious people. But as you sit here, in the cool, silent shadow of their achievement, you know that this is a profound misunderstanding. Their science and their religion were not separate things. They were one and the same. Their astronomy was a form of worship. Their mathematics was a sacred language. Their engineering was a ritual for maintaining the balance of the universe. They were not primitive. They were simply different. They possessed a form of integrated knowledge, a unity of purpose that your own fractured, specialized world can barely comprehend. The sun finally sets. The stars emerge, not the pale, washed-out stars of a light-polluted city, but a brilliant, shocking, 3-dimensional river of diamonds splashed across a canvas of pure black. The Milky Way is a visible, tangible presence. and the pyramid, now a great, dark triangle against the star-dusted sky, seems to be a part of it. The golden capstone is gone, swallowed by the darkness, but the pyramid's presence is, if anything, even more powerful. It is an anchor to the earth, a silent finger pointing to the eternal mysteries of the cosmos. You are witnessing the first night of the pyramid's new life. Its life as a completed, sealed and sacred monument. For 20 years it was a place of noise, of labor, of human effort. Now, and for the next 4,500 years, it will be a place of silence, a place of memory, a place of awe. You think of the king, or rather, his Ka statue, sealed in the granite chamber at the heart of this great mountain of stone. He is alone in the darkness. But he is not trapped. He is on a journey. The small shafts in his chamber are now aligned with the stars, ready to guide his soul on its voyage into eternity. The paintings in his temple are ready to provide him with an eternal paradise. The offerings of the priests are ready to sustain him. The great work is done, the machine is running, and as you prepare to find your own place of rest for the night, the silence of the Giza plateau is no longer an empty, hollow thing. It is a silence that is full of the memories of the men who built this place, full of the faith of a people who believed they could build a stairway to heaven, and full of the quiet, patient, and eternal presence of a king who has become a star. Weeks pass, the great deconstruction is complete. The last of the construction ramps has been cleared away, the final traces of the 20-year-long project erased from the landscape. The workers' village is now a ghost town, its empty barracks and cold bakeries slowly being reclaimed by the patient desert sand. The Giza Plateau has been transformed from a noisy, dynamic city of labor into a serene, manicured necropolis, a city of the dead. The rhythm of the place is now one of quiet, eternal ritual. Each morning at dawn, the priests of the mortuary cult enter the temple at the pyramid's base to perform the daily rites. They burn incense, chant the ancient hymns, and lay out offerings of bread, beer, and roasted fowl on the alabaster altars. These are not symbolic offerings. They believe that the Ka of the king, residing in his statue, deep within the silent pyramid, can mystically absorb the essence of this food, sustaining his spirit in the afterlife. The pyramid is no longer a tomb, it is a divine engine that requires perpetual fuel. You have remained a strange, solitary observer, your presence tolerated by the priests who perhaps see you as a harmless, eccentric pilgrim. You watch the daily rituals, the solemn processions, the slow, unchanging dance of worship. You see the immense wealth that has been dedicated to this eternal project. The temple vessels are of solid gold and silver. The priests are endowed with vast estates of farmland throughout Egypt, the produce of which is dedicated solely to providing for these offerings. The cult of the dead king is now one of the most powerful economic engines in the kingdom. But as you watch this world of serene, pious order, you become aware of another parallel world that exists in its shadows. You begin to notice the guards. They are not the ceremonial temple guards in their clean white kilts. They are a different breed. Hard-faced men, Medjay mercenaries from the southern deserts, their hands resting on the hilts of their bronze Kopesh swords. They patrol the perimeter of the sacred site, their eyes constantly scanning, not for worshippers, but for intruders. They are not here to protect the sanctity of the place. They are here to protect its wealth. You begin to hear whispers, hushed conversations in the nearby market towns among the off-duty soldiers and the local artisans. They are whispers of the treasures sealed within the pyramid. Not just the gilded furniture and the ceremonial vessels that are in the temple, but the king's personal, private, and most valuable possessions, the things that were sealed with his body in the secret chambers. Chests of gold rings, necklaces of lapis and carnelian, solid gold statues, and weapons inlaid with precious stones. A fortune beyond the imagination of any common man, all locked away in the darkness, serving no one but a dead king. This is the great unspoken hypocrisy at the heart of the pyramid. It is a sacred monument, a stairway to the heavens, but it is also the largest, most tempting treasure chest in the world. And for every man who sees it as a symbol of his faith, there is another who sees it as the ultimate prize. One night you are awakened by a disturbance, a muffled shout, the clang of metal on metal, then silence. The next morning, the market is buzzing with the news. A man was caught during the night trying to scout the north face of the pyramid. He was a stonemason, one of the very men who had helped to build the monument. He was questioned harshly by the Medjay guard. Before he died, he confessed. He was part of a gang and they had a plan. The authorities act swiftly and brutally. Several men are rounded up from their homes. There is a quick, merciless trial. The punishment for tomb robbery is the most terrible of all, impalement. The men are brought to the edge of the plateau, to a place where they will be visible for miles around. Sharpened stakes have been driven into the ground. The condemned are forced onto them, their own body weight driving the stake up through their torsos. It is a slow, agonizing death, a public spectacle designed as the ultimate deterrent. You witness this from a distance, your stomach churning. You look at the faces of the condemned. They are not monstrous villains. They are men like the old mason you spoke to, men with calloused hands and weary eyes. What drove them to such a desperate suicidal act? You speak again with your scribe friend, who is now part of the administrative priesthood of the temple. He is a cynical, intelligent man who understands the machinery of both the sacred and the profane. Why do they do it? You ask him. They know the risks. They know the punishment. The scribe sighs, looking out at the great silent pyramid. You are not Egyptian, he says. You do not understand. For us, the afterlife is as real as this one. For the king to be disturbed is a catastrophe for the entire nation. So the punishment must be absolute. But that is not the whole truth, he continues, lowering his voice. You see that man being impaled? His name is Bak. His son is sick with a fever the temple physicians cannot cure. The medicine is expensive. His daughter needs a dowry to marry. The tax collector took his best goat last week. He is not a wicked man. He is a desperate man. He looks at the pyramid, the scribe explains, and he does not see a sacred monument. He sees a mountain of wealth that could save his family. He sees gold that is serving no purpose but to adorn a corpse. He believes in the gods, yes. He is terrified of the king's spirit. But the hunger of his living children is a more immediate and powerful god. And then the scribe tells you the deeper secret, the one that truly unravels the beautiful ordered tapestry of faith. Many of these gangs, he whispers, are not working alone. They are funded, they are given information. By whom, you ask? The scribe looks around, making sure no one can overhear. By other priests, by court officials, even by members of the royal family. The king is dead, a new king is on the throne. The wealth of the old king is a threat to the new one. A powerful priest from a rival temple cult might want to see the cult of Khufu diminished. A vizier might need gold to fund his own ambitions. They cannot be seen to be robbing the tomb themselves, so they use men like Bak. They provide them with the plans, the knowledge of the secret passages, the best time to avoid the guards. If the men succeed, the official takes the lion's share of the treasure. If they fail and are caught, he gestures towards the gruesome spectacle on the stakes. Then they die, and the official's hands are clean. The revelation is staggering. The greatest threat to the pyramid is not the desperate, hungry peasant. It is the very system that created it. The greed, the ambition, the political rivalries of the elite. The tomb is not just a target for the poor. It is a political and economic weapon to be used by the powerful. The scribe tells you of the tomb builders themselves. They were the most skilled craftsmen in the land. They spent years of their lives creating the intricate network of passages, false doors, and hidden chambers designed to protect the king's body. But they were also the only ones who knew the secrets. They knew the location of the real burial chamber. They knew how the blocking stones worked. They were the ultimate security risk. What happened to them, you ask? The scribe's face is grim. The men who sealed the final passage. The men who knew the deepest secrets, they were given a great honor, a feast in their name. The finest wine, the best food,
a wine that was very strong.
They fell into a deep sleep, full of honor and gratitude to the king.
And they never woke up.
The pyramid demanded not just the labor of a generation and the wealth of a nation, it demanded a blood sacrifice. The silence of the tomb was purchased with the silence of the men who built it.
You look at the pyramid now with new eyes.
It is no longer a perfect, serene symbol of faith. It is a paradox. It is a monument to eternity that is under constant threat from the temporal world. It is a sacred space that inspires the most profane acts of greed. It is a symbol of divine order that is built on a foundation of human desperation and ruthless political calculation. The impaled men on the stakes are a warning, but they are also a prophecy. They are the first of a long, unbroken line of those who will try to breach the sacred silence of the pyramid. And the scribe's story tells you that eventually someone will succeed, not through brute force, but through inside knowledge, through a betrayal born of the very human emotions the pyramid was designed to transcend: greed, ambition, and the simple, desperate love of a father for his sick child. As you walk away from the place of execution, the sun is setting. It strikes the western face of the pyramid, and the white limestone seems to be washed in blood. The perfect geometric form now seems like a monument to a beautiful but impossible idea. The idea that a man can truly conquer death, that he can protect his worldly goods from the relentless hunger of the living. You realize that the true story of the pyramid is not the story of its completion. It is the story of its long, slow, inevitable decay. Not the decay of the stone, but the decay of the fear and the faith that protect it. You have witnessed the moment of its greatest glory, but you have also witnessed the planting of the seeds of its violation. And you know that the silence within that great stone heart will not last forever. The world of the living is patient, and its desires are relentless. Years begin to pass. You remain a strange fixture in the landscape, an aging foreigner who has become part of the local folklore, the quiet man who came to watch the great building and never left. Your life is simple, lived on the fringes of the great necropolis. You trade your knowledge of foreign lands for food and lodging, a storyteller in a world of stone and silence. The Giza Plateau is no longer the center of the world. The focus of royal power has shifted. Khufu's son Khafre has built his own pyramid complex nearby. It is slightly smaller, but it is a magnificent achievement in its own right, its peak still capped with the original gleaming Tura limestone. He has also commanded the carving of the Great Sphinx, the colossal lion-bodied, human-headed guardian that now stares eternally towards the rising sun. A generation later, Menkaure will build the third and smallest of the great Giza pyramids. The plateau becomes a sprawling family cemetery of gods. But with each new monument, the resources of the kingdom are stretched thinner. The sheer, overwhelming concentration of wealth and labor that was possible for Khufu can never be repeated. You are witnessing the slow, graceful decline from a golden age of absolute power. The changes are subtle at first, but relentless. The cult of Khufu, once the most powerful religious institution in the land, begins to lose its primacy. The estates that fund the daily offerings are vast, but they are not infinite. Priests of the newer royal cults, the cults of Khafre and Menkaure, begin to vie for resources and influence. You see, the political games the scribe once whispered about play out in real time. Land grants are subtly reassigned. Offerings at Khufu's temple, while still performed, become slightly less lavish. The number of priests dwindles, the world moves on. The memory of the great king Khufu, the living god who commanded this mountain to be built, begins to fade. He becomes a figure of legend, of history. The visceral, personal connection that the builders felt is gone, replaced by a more distant, formal reverence. And with the fading of that personal fear, the whispers of the tomb robbers grow bolder. The security of the plateau, once absolute, becomes more porous. The Medjay guards are still there, but their patrols are less frequent. Their loyalty is to the living king, not the dead one. A well-placed bribe becomes more effective. One season, a new and audacious rumor sweeps through the market.
A gang, it is said, has found a way in.
Not through the sealed, invisible main entrance, but through a new method. They have started to tunnel. They have begun to bore a hole directly into the side of the great monument, a brutal, crude assault on its sacred perfection. They are quarrying their way towards the king's treasure. The attempt fails. The gang is caught and executed, their impaled bodies a grim reminder of the law. But the idea has been planted. The pyramid is not impenetrable. It is just a mountain of stone, and any mountain can be tunneled. The sacrilege of today becomes the engineering problem of tomorrow. You are an old man now. Your hair is white. Your strange clothes are threadbare. You have seen a generation born and die in the shadow of the great monument. You have seen the brilliant white casing stones begin to lose their perfect, blinding sheen, their surface dulled by centuries of sun and the occasional, rare desert rain. One day a great earthquake shakes the land. The ground trembles, and a deep, groaning sound comes from the colossal structures on the plateau. When the shaking stops, a great crack has appeared in the casing of the Great Pyramid. A few of the polished white stones near the base have been dislodged, revealing for the first time in centuries the rougher, structural core stones beneath. The damage is a profound psychological blow. The monument, the symbol of eternity and unchanging perfection, has been wounded by the forces of nature. It is not eternal. It is subject to the same decay and chaos as everything else in the world. The priests of the cult wail and perform appeasement rituals, but the resources and the political will to conduct a major repair are no longer there. The living king has his own projects, his own concerns. The wound is left untended, a small, visible scar of imperfection. That scar is an invitation. It is a sign of weakness. It tells the world that the divine protection of the place is waning. The tomb robbers, who have always been present, become more organized, more daring.
And then comes the great violation.
It does not happen in your lifetime, but you can feel it coming, as surely as you can feel the changing of the seasons. History will later record it as the work of the Caliph al-Ma'mun in the 9th century AD, who, driven by tales of fabulous treasure and lost knowledge, will bring an army of engineers to Giza. They will not be able to find the original entrance, so they will do what was once unthinkable. They will light great fires against the side of the pyramid to heat the stone and then douse it with cold vinegar to crack it. They will batter their way through the outer casing and deep into the core, creating the crude, gaping tunnel that tourists still use today. They will, after weeks of torturous labor, finally break through into the pyramid's silent, internal passages. They will find the ascending gallery, the granite plugs. They will tunnel around them. They will enter the king's chamber, the sacred heart of the monument, a room that has been sealed in perfect, silent darkness for over 3,000 years. They will find it empty. The sarcophagus is there, a massive, lidless box of red granite. But the body of the king is gone. The treasures are gone. The grave goods are gone. Everything, the story of what happened, will be debated for eternity. Were the robbers of Al-Ma'mun's time simply beaten to the prize? Had an earlier gang, perhaps in the chaos that followed the collapse of the Old Kingdom, succeeded where others had failed? Had they found a way to bypass the plugs, plunder the chamber, and seal the tomb so perfectly behind them that no one ever knew? Or is there another stranger possibility? Did the priests themselves, in a time of national crisis, secretly enter the tomb and move the king's body and his treasures to a secret, unmarked location to protect them from the inevitable desecration? Was the great, empty pyramid just a colossal decoy, its treasure hidden elsewhere all along? The answer is lost to time. All that is known is that the silence was broken. The sanctity was violated. The great machine of immortality had failed. You will not live to see this. Your life ends as it was lived in the shadow of the pyramid. You are buried in the simple cemetery for commoners, your grave unmarked, your strange story known only to a few. But your consciousness, the observer that we have sent back, can see the long, slow arc of the future. You see the casing stones loosened by the earthquakes being stripped away by later pharaohs and sultans to build their own palaces and mosques in the new city of Cairo. You see the brilliant white skin of the pyramid being flayed, leaving the rough, stepped core that we see today. You see the monument transform from a divine geometric object into a convenient, pre-cut quarry. You see the coming of Napoleon's soldiers, who will gaze up at the pyramid in awe, their scientists measuring its every angle, trying to unlock its secrets with the tools of a new kind of science. You see the coming of the Victorian explorers, the Egyptologists who will clear the sands, map the chambers, and turn the sacred necropolis into a site of intense academic study. And finally, you see the coming of the tourists.
Millions of them, in their buses and their sun hats, with their cameras and their water bottles.
They will walk the same paths you walked. They will stare up at the same colossal structure. They will feel a faint, distant echo of the same awe that you felt. But they will see a different thing. They see a ruin, a magnificent, mysterious and silent ruin. They see a puzzle to be solved, a testament to a lost and alien world. They do not see, as you did, the brilliant blazing white. They do not hear the sound of 10,000 men chanting as one. They do not feel the absolute, unshakable certainty of a people who believed they were building a house for a god. You have witnessed the entire life cycle of the Great Pyramid. You saw the moment of its birth, its perfect, blinding glory. You saw the long, dignified life of its sacred purpose. And you have foreseen its slow, inevitable descent into ruin and mystery. And what is the final truth? The pyramid failed in its purpose as a tomb. The treasures were stolen, the king's body was lost. The magical machine of immortality was broken. But, in another deeper sense, it succeeded beyond the wildest dreams of its creators. Khufu the king is gone. But his name, his monument, his civilization have achieved a kind of immortality he could never have imagined. His house of eternity has stood for 45 centuries, a silent witness to the entire sweep of human history. It has outlasted empires, religions, and entire civilizations. The final legacy of the pyramid is not the treasure that was lost, but the story that remains.
A story of human ambition, of incredible skill, of profound faith, and of the enduring, universal human desire to build something that will outlast us.
To leave a mark upon the world, to shout our name into the abyss of time, and hope that someone in a distant future will hear the echo. And as you finally let go of this ancient world, you know that the echo of Khufu's pyramid is the loudest, most persistent, and most magnificent of all. Your physical life has ended, a single grain of sand buried in the vast desert of time. But our perspective, the timeless one, remains. We now drift forward through the long, silent centuries, watching as the Great Pyramid ceases to be a living, breathing part of Egyptian religion and transforms into something else entirely. It becomes a legend, a silent, brooding presence on the horizon, its original purpose shrouded in the mists of a forgotten history. The Egyptian civilization that built it goes through profound changes. New dynasties rise and fall. New gods eclipse the old ones. The capital moves from Memphis to Thebes and back again. The Old Kingdom, the era of absolute centralized power that made the pyramid possible, collapses into a period of civil war and chaos. During these dark times, the systems that protected the necropolis at Giza fall apart. This, most scholars believe, is when the true methodical plundering of the pyramid likely occurred, not by petty thieves, but by organized gangs, perhaps sanctioned by local warlords, who had the time and the resources to solve the complex riddle of its sealed passages. The generations pass, the language changes. The hieroglyphs that adorn the temple walls, once the living words of the gods, become a mysterious, indecipherable script that only a handful of antiquarian priests can read. The The stories of Khufu, the god king, are twisted and transformed into folk tales. He is no longer remembered as the divine architect, but often as a cruel tyrant who enslaved his people to build a monument to his own vanity, a historical libel that will cling to his name for millennia. The pyramid itself acquires a new and powerful aura of mystery. People no longer know for certain what is inside. They only know that it is a place of immense power and immense danger. Legends are born. It is said to be a storehouse for the magical books of Thoth, the god of wisdom, containing the secrets of alchemy and the creation of the universe. It is rumored to be a granary built by the biblical Joseph to store grain during the 7 years of famine. It is believed to be haunted by powerful spirits, jinn and elemental guardians who will strike down any who dare to disturb their silent watch. The pyramid ceases to be a historical monument and becomes a mythological one. We watch as new waves of conquerors sweep over the land of the Nile. The Persians, the Greeks under Alexander the Great, and finally the Romans. Each new culture brings its own perspective, its own lens through which to view the great, silent structures on the plateau. Greek travelers like Herodotus, the father of history, visit Giza. They stand in awe just as you did, but they do not see a sacred machine. They see a marvel of engineering and a monument to the colossal ambition and, in their democratic eyes, the hubris of kings. They interview the local priests who are now little more than tourist guides, spinning tales that are a mixture of fragmented history and pure invention. It is from these accounts that the world learns the story of the 100,000 men laboring for 20 years, the story of the machines used to lift the stones, stories that will shape the Western understanding of the pyramids for the next 2,000 years.
Roman governors and emperors make the pilgrimage.
They see the pyramids as the ultimate tourist attraction, a symbol of the ancient, mystical, and now conquered land of Egypt. They carve their names into the stones, a form of imperial graffiti, leaving their own small mark on the flank of eternity. The world they rule is one of concrete, arches, and aqueducts, a different kind of engineering genius, but they are humbled by the sheer, brutal simplicity and scale of what stands before them. Then comes another profound shift.
A new religion, Christianity, sweeps across the Roman Empire.
The old gods of Egypt are declared to be demons. The ancient temples are either abandoned or converted into churches. The cults that sustained the necropolis are extinguished forever. The pyramid is now no longer just a monument of a forgotten king. It is a relic of a pagan, unholy past. Coptic monks build monasteries in its shadow, seeing it as a symbol of worldly vanity, a stark reminder of the foolishness of men who would build a house for their body rather than a mansion for their soul in heaven. The final transformation of its original purpose is complete. It is no longer a sacred place, it is a thing.
A magnificent, mysterious, and spiritually inert thing. And as a thing, it can be harvested.
The process of stripping its beautiful white limestone casing accelerates. The great city of Cairo is built, and the pyramids of Giza become its quarry. For centuries, the work of the ancient masons is undone, stone by stone, to build the walls, mosques, and citadels of a new civilization. The horizon of Khufu, the brilliant mountain of light, is slowly, methodically skinned, revealing the rough, weathered, and more familiar form we know today. We drift further into the Islamic Golden Age. Arab scholars, fascinated by mathematics and astronomy, study the pyramid with a scientific eye. They are astounded by its precise geometry, its perfect alignment to the cardinal points. They meticulously measure its dimensions, and in its proportions, they believe they see a hidden sacred code. They see a repository of lost ancient knowledge, a map of the heavens encoded in stone. It is during this period that the Caliph al-Ma'mun makes his famous forced entry, driven not just by a lust for gold, but by a thirst for this lost knowledge. His discovery of the empty chamber is one of the great anti-climaxes of history. deepening the mystery rather than solving it. The centuries continue to wheel by. The pyramid stands a silent, brooding witness to the Crusades, to the Ottoman Empire, to the entire sweep of medieval and early modern history. It becomes a permanent fixture in the imagination of the world, a symbol of the ultimate mystery, the ultimate lost secret. And then, in the 19th century, everything changes again. The era of modern Egyptology begins. European adventurers and scholars arrive with new tools and a new mindset. They are armed with the scientific method, with linguistics, with archaeology. They are not here to plunder or to marvel at legends. They are here to measure, to excavate, to decipher. Jean-François Champollion deciphers the Rosetta Stone, and for the first time in nearly 2,000 years, the ancient hieroglyphs can be read. The walls of the temples and tombs begin to speak again. The names of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure are read and understood. The pyramid is slowly, painstakingly reconnected to its own history. It is placed back into its proper context, identified not as a granary or a magical storehouse, but as the tomb of a specific king from a specific dynasty. Archaeologists like Flinders Petrie conduct the first truly scientific surveys of the plateau. They meticulously measure every passage, every stone. They discover the workers' village, the bakeries, the barracks. They unearth the graves of the builders and study their skeletons, learning of their hard lives, their injuries, their diet. The myth of the slave-built pyramid begins to crumble, replaced by a more complex and human story of a national project built by skilled, respected, and well-fed laborers. The pyramid is no longer a mythological object. It has become a scientific one. It is a vast open-air laboratory, the greatest archaeological site on Earth. And yet, for every question that is answered, a dozen new ones arise. The more we learn, the more we realize how much we do not know. How precisely were the great stones lifted? The evidence is ambiguous. Levers?
Ramps? A combination of both?
How did they achieve such incredible precision with simple copper and stone tools? What is the true purpose of the so-called air shafts in the kings and queens' chambers? They are not for ventilation. They are precisely aligned to specific star constellations. But why, and what of the hidden chambers? Modern science brings new, non-invasive tools to the mystery. Cosmic ray moon detectors, ground-penetrating radar, thermal imaging. And with these tools, they begin to see ghosts within the machine. In recent years, scans have revealed the existence of a large, previously unknown void, a hidden chamber or corridor deep within the heart of the pyramid, above the Grand Gallery. Its purpose is unknown, it is inaccessible. The pyramid, it seems, has not yet given up all its secrets. We are left in the present day. You, the listener, are back in your own time. But the pyramid is still there. It has survived not just the ravages of time, but the ravages of human history. It has been a divine machine, a quarry, a haunted place of legend, a scientific puzzle, and the world's greatest tourist attraction. It has been all of these things, and it is still there. The final legacy of the pyramid, you realize, is its incredible resilience, not just of its stones, but of its meaning. It is a blank canvas onto which humanity has projected its greatest hopes, its deepest fears, and its most profound questions for 45 centuries. It asks us, what is the nature of power? What is the purpose of civilization? What is our relationship with death and eternity? The pyramid offers no easy answers. Its beauty lies in its silence, in its refusal to fully explain itself. It stands a permanent question mark, written on the desert floor. As you settle into the final moments before sleep, let your mind rest on this long, slow, and ever-changing story. The story of a single object and its journey through the entire span of human history. A story that reminds us that even the most solid and eternal of things are in a constant state of transformation, their meaning shaped and reshaped by the minds of those who gaze upon them. The great work is done, but the great story is still being written. And so we arrive at the end of our long watch. We have seen the pyramid born in a blaze of white, sun-drenched glory. We have witnessed its sacred purpose, its slow decay, its violent violation, and its final modern rebirth as a monument of science and wonder. We have traveled through 45 centuries, watching as the river of time flows around this single, immovable stone island. But let us now pull our focus away from the grand sweep of history, away from the kings and caliphs, the priests and the archaeologists. Let us come back to the beginning, back to the single human life, back to the old stonemason from Aswan, the man who spent his life shaping the stones of his king's eternal house. What was he thinking as he took his last look at the finished pyramid before beginning his long walk home? He did not know of the empires that would come and go. He did not know of the new religions that would sweep the earth. He did not know of the strange science that would one day scan the heart of his creation with invisible rays. His world was much smaller and perhaps much clearer. He knew the satisfying heft of a perfectly balanced mall. He knew the smell of the Nile mud after the inundation. He knew the precise sound a chisel makes when it bites into a flawless piece of granite. He knew the faces of the men he worked with, the songs they sang to time their labors, the quiet pride they shared in a well-laid stone. Did he truly believe that his work would make his king an immortal god? Yes, with every fiber of his being. It was the fundamental truth of his world, as real to him as the sun in the sky. But his personal motivation, the thing that got him out of his sleeping barracks every morning for 20 years, was perhaps something simpler, something more universal. It was the deep human need to be a part of something larger than oneself. In our modern world, we are often adrift in a sea of individuality. Our achievements are personal, our goals are our own. We build careers, we accumulate possessions, we curate our own digital identities. But the old mason was part of a different kind of project. He was a single, vital cell in a colossal, national organism that was focused on a single, transcendent goal. He was not working for a wage in the modern sense. He was participating in a sacred communal act. His personal identity was subsumed into a vast, collective identity. And in losing himself to this great work, he found a sense of purpose that few of us today will ever know. The pyramid is a monument to that shared purpose. It is a testament to the almost unbelievable power that is unleashed when a society is in perfect alignment, when its government, its religion, its economy, and its people are all focused on a single, ambitious, and deeply meaningful goal. We look at the pyramid today and we ask, how did they do it? We speculate about lost technologies, about alien assistance, about arcane secrets. But perhaps the real secret is not in the tools they used, but in the minds of the people who used them. The real secret was their unity of vision. The real lost technology is that kind of profound society-wide consensus.
As you lie here now on the verge of sleep in a world that is fractured, chaotic, and filled with 1,000 competing voices, allow your mind to rest on the quiet, simple clarity of that ancient world.
Imagine the feeling of waking up every day knowing exactly what your purpose is, knowing that your small, individual effort is a vital contribution to a project that will last for eternity, knowing that your work is not just for yourself, not just for your family, but for the balance of the entire cosmos. The pyramid teaches us a final, quiet lesson. It teaches us that the greatest and most enduring things we build are not the products of individual genius alone. They are the products of collective will. They are the physical manifestations of a shared dream.
So let go of the mysteries now.
Let go of the questions of how the stones were lifted and who robbed the tomb. Let the dust of the centuries settle. And in the final moments before you sleep, just see the pyramid as it was on that first night after its completion. A perfect, silent, white triangle crowned with a single golden star standing against the brilliant, infinite river of the night sky. See it not as a puzzle, but as a poem written in stone, a poem about faith, about order, about the human hunger for eternity, and about the simple, profound, and enduring power of a shared dream. Let that great, silent, and peaceful image be your final thought. Let the silence of the Giza Plateau be your own silence. Let the stillness of the monument be your own stillness. And allow yourself to drift into a sleep as deep, as peaceful, and as timeless as the pyramid itself. And so, our journey to the Giza Plateau comes to a close. We have stood in the shadow of the great work, felt the desert sun on our skin, and heard the distant echo of a civilization's single, unified voice. We have seen a mountain of stone become a beacon of light, a tomb become a machine for eternity, and a sacred monument become a timeless mystery. The story of the Great Pyramid is not just a story of ancient Egypt. It is a story about us. It reflects our own deepest questions about life, death, and what it means to leave a legacy. In its silent geometric perfection, we see our own yearning for order in a chaotic universe. In its colossal ambition, we see our own desire to transcend our mortal limits. Thank you for traveling with me tonight, for lending your quiet attention to this echo from the deep past. The world of Khufu's builders is gone, buried under the sands of 4,500 years, but the awe they created remains, a permanent and humbling feature on the landscape of human history. I hope this journey has brought you a sense of peace and perhaps a touch of wonder. If you've enjoyed our time together, please consider a like, a subscribe, or sharing this with someone else who might appreciate a quiet story in the dark. It helps this channel to grow and allows us to continue our travels together. Until our next journey, I wish you the deepest and most restful peace. May your own dreams be as vast and as quiet as the desert night, and may you wake with the gentle light of a new day. Sleep well.